name is Tate Pouncey. I'm the man who's going to become the greatest artist of all time. I'm here today to talk about my track Marina, or Rhythm 10. I'm still like very touch and go with what the title of this song actually is going to be. I've been going back and forth, so it still might actually change. I'm recording this May 30th. The song comes out right now, June 19th, but I might push that back. I'll see. I'll figure it out. But yeah, this piece was inspired by obviously Marina Abramovich, who, is an artist who inspires me a lot. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about that inspiration and where my thoughts around this track have come from. Yeah, so I decided I'm inspired by this piece because I'm chasing, in my practice, a way to make the experience of creation something that is worn on my body and worn in my physical presentation of myself, not just in the spirit or not just in my mind. I have a really cerebral way of approaching things, and I kind of want to explore how it is that I can push myself outside of thinking about creation through thinking, rather just being something that is there in my body. I grew up being really active. I'm a very active person. I learned to associate pain and soreness and being sore with a certain growth and progress. And in Marina Abramovich, repeating her strikes and trying to reopen her old wounds, I felt a connection to the Sisyphean nature of creation and of growth and of kind of life in general. It's it reminds me of the way I break my body again and again and again. And for those who are not hip, Rhythm 10 is a piece where Marina Abramovich sat on the floor, and with the series of knives, she would cut them. She would drop them in between her fingers, and every single time it is that she cut herself, she would play back the recording of the performance so that she could try to cut herself at the same time it is that she cut herself the next time. I have some notes that I'm looking at off of my screen, off the back at the camera, so I can keep my thoughts organized. But yeah, there's something in the piece about just subjecting oneself to the unknown, and it makes me think about suicide, and obviously self-harm is a really big motif. There's something about being both the perpetrator and the victim at the same time, asking the question is violence really just the loss of control, of oneself? Maybe the most natural part of the self is fearing that loss of control. To have control is to have boundaries, and to not have boundaries is to be the ultimate subject. To be the ultimate subject, and it's to be an entity that's capable of only receiving. And she explores a lot of these ideas around subjectivity in her Rhythm series. I first heard about the Rhythm series through Rhythm Zero, which where the control of her body is completely given to the audience. She becomes the complete subject. And I think the Rhythm series brings up a lot of those questions to me about subjectivity and like the being, and like, you know, the difference between like what's being subjected on and what's doing the subjecting, you know. And consent, of course, is a really big factor in Rhythm Zero as well. I believe that it's our task as artists to surrender ourselves to the unknown. You know, I think that this happens with the creation of work as well as like posting and sharing that work. You know, the internet represents this space of unlimited connection and, you know, this energy. It's like this place that is, you know, it promises just so much freedom. You know, it promises so much freedom of expression and so much freedom of connection, you know. But we've all, you know, been living these lives on the internet for many years now, and, you know, we're starting to kind of see like a lot of that freedom kind of be eroded, you know. We're seeing a lot of that freedom being subsumed by the same system it is that we, you know, went to the internet to try to run from, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's so much, and it comes from, you know, of course, like censorship and the way it is that algorithms curate people's personalities and people's interests by putting things in front of them. But it's also the voices and the noise and the judgment that comes from everybody else on the internet, you know, acting behind the screen of anonymity, you know. That's the reason why it's like, one of the reasons why I start off all of these like series, all these videos where I'm talking by saying my name is Tate Pouncey, I'm the man who's going to become the greatest artist of all time, because I don't want there to be anything it is for me to hide behind, you know. But yeah, yeah. And I like how unnerving and disturbing her work can be, you know. And I think that sort of disturbed nature, that disturbed part of her work, that thing it is that shocks us out of the system, you know. I think that that's